Oh my goodness! It is a lazy Sunday afternoon. You're, some of you are, maybe like myself. I won't mention any names. This is not a show where we call people out, but I had some big disappointments on the fantasy gridiron today. So if you're like myself and you want to switch into something totally unrelated to your fantasy football woes and problems, thanks for joining us on Bad Publicity. Right? Hollis is the kind of guy that Hollis doesn't know what a bad fantasy week is. I'll tell you that.
No. I have not participated in fantasy football, but I have yet to experience the unfortunate incident that you discussed before the show.
We won't name any names, but a certain receiver down in Miami just frustrated me beyond no means. I mean, you say fantasy to Hollis, and he thinks Dwarf and an elf are involved.
I mean, where's the lie though? I guess basically, yeah, you're right. Like, there's no lie here.
Got it.
Alec, what's going on your side of the fence, man?
Hey, I'm doing good. Down here in Georgia, we had some concern that this massive hurricane might slip our way, but in fact, all we got today was a little drizzle, and we called that a storm. So hopefully the folks out there on the Carolina coast are cool. My folks in North Carolina are good, and we're good here in Georgia as well. So, yeah, everything's good.
Good.
Yeah, in all seriousness aside, I hope everybody is, taking proper precautions down there. That is nasty looking. I know it got downgraded and it didn't hit as hard as as it was supposed to. Thank God, but still, right? Like, it's serious business. Mm-hmm. But let's get back on the non-serious stuff. Hollis, you did a little voyage to the land of, 10,000 lakes, man?
Yeah, the land of many lakes. Yeah. Minneapolis, Minnesota. Mm-hmm. Normally, when they have an event, it's in November, so it's much colder. Mm-hmm. But the weather, because it was in the early part of September, was perfect. I want to say the high each day may have been like 80 degrees, like low 80s maybe.
Nice.
And so, yeah, I mean, when it got like later in the evening and it was like 72, 73, it was fantastic.
And for those north of the border?
Oh, I don't know what that is in Celsius.
Dude, we're all this time. Come on. You gotta...
75 degrees Celsius would be 23 degrees Celsius. And
remember,
Fahrenheit.
We're a global show, and a lot of people are on this thing called metric. How many times do I got to tell you?
So basically 20 to 23 degrees Celsius. Or like 69 to 75. It was beautiful. That's all you need to know. It was fantastic.
That's almost the weather where you had your LeBron James suit on, right?
Like, with the shorts?
Yeah.
With the shorts. I do not own a suit with shorts.
If anyone saw Hollis broadcasting the games, that's why. It's what he had on underneath from below the table.
No, that was not.
It was in Birkenstocks and some khakis. Alec can attest.
Man, Hollis, it was a classy looking stream. Everyone, all the co-hosts showed up in top tier classy gear, and you led the charge there really impressively, both in terms of content and in terms of fashion. So well done all around. It was a really fun watch.
Thanks. Thank you very much. Yeah, no, I got to, I had the pleasure, the honor to be with Benjamin Terrell, aka those of you who don't know, Dodge Pong, who basically he runs the PCHAC stream. He run, out of Atlanta with Alec. When Alec was in Atlanta, he runs the PCHAC channel. So he is the one that does that amazing like play-by-play of the game, where that he allows people like myself and Alec to do live commentary on Netrunner, and we were lucky enough to be invited by FFG to come commentate the stream at Worlds this year. and it was a lot of fun. It was really exhausting. Because we did King of Servers, which was the day before the main tournament days, and then we did the qualifying day 1, qualifying day 2, and then the finals on day 3, and it was a lot. Basically, it was me. Yeah. I talked for 4 straight days, a lot. And Alec, I wish you were there. It was.
I would have loved to, man.
Yeah, it was my first time leading, and I was just like, "What would Alec do? How would Alec do this?"
Hey, and you handled it nicely, and I thought the variety of co-hosts was also really nice too. That you got to have enthusiastic, top-tier players, more mid-level, grounded, like thoughtful players. It was all this great mix of opinions and insights and energy, and it was really fascinating to watch and fun.
Yes.
For the viewer.
Yeah, there's so many people. I mean, there's really so many people to thank. But I mean, I'll start off with those co-hosts, right? Like, goodness, like Andre from Metropole Grid, Alexis Spicer, Andrew Cortez, CTZ, as a lot of you may know him, did amazingly for King of Servers. Also, he had this amazing smoking jacket. I loved it. As well as Jono from the UK, who also made day 2, I do believe. So he did. Just really great group of co-hosts there. As far as like people that also set up, Ben Cam, Joshua Swanner, who's actually a supporter of A&R Bad Publicity. He was there also. He helped set up. I feel like I'm missing someone. John Delisandre also helped with setup. Dean even hopped on stream. Seamus hopped on stream. It was really nice to have a collection of all these people that were really enthusiastic about the game, who were really passionate about speaking about the game, and at the drop of a hat could make themselves available to comment and challenge themselves to do something different. It was a lot of hard work. Ben worked his butt off. I mean, granted, you may hear us on the stream talking, but the person that really did all the work is Ben. Anytime we mention a player's hand and you're like, oh, how convenient that we're now seeing the player's hand, that has been actively there watching the whole game and reacting to what we're saying and what's happening at the same time. The man is multitasking and making sure that everything that's happening in front of people, watching, he's keeping in mind that you guys are informed and paying attention and can see everything that we see. So, I mean, amazing directing skills, amazing attention to detail, and in general, great, like, everybody involved. I was so happy to be a part of it, and I was also so happy when it was done because it was exhausting.
Yeah.
It was a really tiring experience.
Bravo.
Thanks, man. Thanks. And, again, shout out to Ben for, just really kicking butt. It was such a great time. But yeah. Hey, guys, world. We made it. The game is basically done. We got there.
we completed the game. We beat the final level.
Yeah, the final
boss fight.
Good.
Yeah. Nice.
I had a lot of people. I'll just say this real quickly. I mean, talking about Worlds in general, so many people, an uncountable number came to me in person and said, hey, thank you for producing the content. Thank you for doing what you do. Thank you for being available. So many people kept saying, we listen to Bad Publicity. We really love what you guys are doing. Guys, thank you so much. There were so many people that I talked to during the weekend. It would absolutely be impossible for me to remember any of you by name, all of you, by name, and give them all in a list. And that would just be absurd. And I apologize for not even doing so. But for everyone that approached me over the weekend, thank you so much. It's incredibly humbling. And made me really emotional that all these people came in and said they appreciate the work that we do, because it is time consuming. A lot of times we sacrifice time doing other things that we find interesting or that we have a passion for to make sure that we produce something that other people really, really want to be a part of and contribute to and enjoy and consume. And it's always a labor of love, and it's really nice when people can come to you and say, thank you for sacrificing that time to give us something that we enjoy. So in the most respectful, like, humbled way, thank you so much for anyone that said something nice or said thank you. It means so much. Thank you, guys. But we have a new world champ. Joe Shupp.
Congrats.
Right.
World champ.
Yep.
Congrats. Fought his way up. We interviewed him on the stream. Very humbled. I remember him saying that he had not had the opportunity to place in any real any huge major event, and so he felt like it felt a little undeserved. And I don't think that's true. I definitely feel like if you're there, if you make it there, there's a good chance that a combination of there's always RNG in any game, but there's definitely practice and dedication and time and consistency that goes into that. I mean, the decision trees that you go through on each game, on each turn. If you get there, you earned it. You may think it's undeserved, but you put a lot of effort, a lot of hard work into it. So congratulations to Joe. There were a lot of great people in the top 8. It was not an easy field. I mean, the top 8 consisted of people like Abram Jopp and
for a second
Joshua
there, I
Wilson.
thought you just said there's a lot of people in the top 8. I was going to be like, there's probably 8 of them.
So many. How can we count them all?
I mean, just a lot of really great players that were that were in the top 8, and there were a lot of familiar faces in top 8. I mean, no doubt they were players that had consistently proved themselves time and time again to be great at the game. The bubble was so close. Also, I saw a lot of really good players that were just so close and they just didn't have the final points, or they lost out on tiebreakers, and that's unfortunate. But I mean, the cut was so extreme. You go
stressful, very stressful if you didn't make that bubble.
Yeah, it is. It's really, yeah. It was, yeah. I'm not gonna talk about it. There was definitely a lot of. I mean, it being the final event and everybody wanting to do their best, there's no doubt that there were going to be a lot of broken hearts, a lot of real big, like, tense moments. But I felt like, for the most part, the players really did really well. And I think knowing that it was the last major Netrunner event,
it was the swan song, right? Like, you never get another chance, man. It was like Derek Jeter. Like, Derek Jeter announced his retirement at the beginning of the year and said, win or lose, I'm going out.
Right.
So most people don't get that. Most people will be like, they'll win that last championship and then be like, I'm out. Right. This time there was no next time. Right.
And I really feel like, to a certain extent, just talking about that, I really feel like that sort of kind of curved, I think, a little bit of the nerves to some extent. We talked before we started streaming. We said, it's possible that some of the turnout at Worlds could have been due to the fact that, the game is ending. And so people, as the last hurrah, wanted to make sure they attended this really big event where you were going to be able to see, some of the best players in the game participate in the biggest final tournament of the game. And it's amazing to me that in such a competitive environment, like, 'cause this is the most competitive Netrunner event, that everyone seemed to be in such great spirits about the game. I remember someone being disappointed, and all I could tell them was like, hey, this is the last one. So first, do your best. And if that isn't working out for you, go get a beer and enjoy your game. I mean, like that, and that's just the truth. Like, because the center there sells drinks. So, I mean, if you don't drink beer, go get a cola. And if you don't drink that, drink water. Like, I mean, whatever you got to do, this is the last one. So don't leave this event as something that is going to be a sour experience for you. Take in the amazing friendships you've made, or the opportunities you've had to travel, or just enjoy something new. For a lot of people, your lives, we're examples of that, right? And I know some of our fans are, our lives sort of shifted and mold around enjoying this game, about finding time to enjoy the game, aspects of the game. So if you're gonna, if you've already invested that amount of time and effort and level of effort into it, make sure you're having fun. That's what's really important. You want to win, so would I.
There's going to be a lot of people that potentially could be watching Hollis, and they could flame you in the comments saying, "I wish you had told me that before. Thanks for telling me now. I can't go back. I can't go back and have that beer and water and have fun now. Thanks, man."
If only I had chugged some water, I would have had such a great time.
It would have been way better. But no,
it's a good point.
It seemed like everybody was in fairly good spirits, and I will say the sort of also props to all the judges, event organizers. They did an amazing job, I felt like, throughout the weekend. They seemed to be very attentive. They seemed to be really, really out there, ready to go. Also, the tournament felt like it was run very, very tight. It was run very tight. I think at some point, there was an issue day one where there was an error and they had to redo the rounds. But beyond that, I think in some cases a round was ready with, it was timed to be like 12 minutes, and it's like 200 people.
No.
So and remember, like when I say 12 minutes, I'm also including, game goes to time, and now both players have their one turn remaining to make a decision, and they're thinking real hard about it. They were moving really fast, trying to get ready for the next round. So props to like basically their organized play. They seem to be on it, like really, really on it, trying to make sure the tournament was run smoothly. And then the last part is the saddest part, which is Sunday, right? Because you go through this amazing event at Worlds where you're lost in the shuffle of everything happening. You're like, okay, I gotta get ready for this tournament. Oh, then my friend's playing on day 2. Oh, the finals are on. Let me watch the finals. Let me see how that's going. Oh, wow, this guy played this card. What an amazing play. Or you're checking out new stuff. You're having people sign things, and then finally Sunday gets here, and you're approaching near the end of the tournament. And while it's still a lot of noise, it's still a lot of people paying attention to what's going on, you realize it hits you at some point. It hits you. Maybe it's after Joe Shupp wins, or maybe they announce top 8. But it hits you that
as soon as you get knocked out.
Yeah, maybe that is it. Like as soon as you get knocked out, maybe that's what it is. But you realize that it's ending. You realize that for the majority of people, minus a couple nationals that remain, right? You realize the game is basically done. And it was emotional. I was emotional, but I kept it together as long as I could while the stream was on. And then basically had my emotional moment, after everything had ended. But as someone, of course, someone that was there, I will tell you, I think it was emotional for.
Brought to you by Kleenex.
Woo! You might as well. I actually, what I disliked is I didn't have any, so I had to run back to my hotel room. I was like, I'm going back to my hotel. No one talked to me. I'm leaving. But yeah, it was amazing. Like you could just see it. As Joe won, and if they were saying congrats and things like that, you could just see the wave of emotion just start to wash over everybody. Like people, not only people that watch bad publicity, but people, that have made friendships. The one story I sort of have that for me was sad is at some point I was like, I'm fine. Oh, is James
Go
ahead.
This? Go ahead.
The one thing for me, I think that got me was, when I go back and I think about my friendships and being a content creator for Netrunner. The one thing I didn't expect is that it's like I would wake up every week or every other week, knowing me, and say let's do a podcast, let's record. But then I realized some of my best friends locally I met because of Netrunner, and even if they're not my best friends, they were introduced to me because of this game, and even after they quit, we maintained a friendship. In the case of you guys, it gave me an opportunity to meet you, Alec, and do commentary. Jameson, you allowed me to even be on Bad Publicity to begin with. You know what I mean? Like, all of this is just pieces that fit really well because of this.
Nobody really knows that you really been paying me per appearance.
Yeah. Every $50 per episode, guys. It's not been cheap.
And there was an initial startup fee, and then a very low renewal every year.
Just know my bank account's been getting hit pretty hard. But yeah, it was you realize you've met all these great people, and that a lot of your life is kind of formed around this game, and that a lot of the friendships you have has formed around this game. And I think at some point it hit me. It was a combo of, what if Netrunner wasn't there? Where would these people be in my life? Would they just be not even blips on my radar? Mm-hmm. And then it was, what happens after the game is done? Am I still going to have great relationships with these people? Netrunner being a linchpin of me, forming that friendship. When Netrunner's done, are they gone now? Do they go about living their lives? I don't really talk to them. Are we all going to get together and play board games or play another game together? And I think all of that hit was the saddest aspect of it, because you spend so much time with those people and forming those friendships. And it was heavy, guys. It was really, really heavy. I found myself wanting to comfort as many people as I could, but ultimately realizing that, this...
Who's going to comfort you, right? That's what you're like.
Yeah.
Who's comforting me?
But I mean, you start to realize, hey, these are for in a lot of cases, these bonds that we form are these lifelong things. And I know for a fact, I have a friend right now that I met. Not to be too emotional, I have a friend right now that I went out with just last night, and we had a buddy moment, and it was very much like I know that I met this person and formed a bond with this person because they were looking for hobbies that would allow us to play together, and Netrunner was that. So one of my best friends in my life are because of Netrunner. Yeah. And I think that is like something that a lot of people feel about this. It's something that has brought them together with a local gaming group or other people that may know. So
yeah, I mean, you went from not knowing there was anything above America to like, I think now you say A every once in a while.
I mean, it's the least I could do.
Yeah. Say, I don't know if that was intentional or not,
but basically, dialing it back from the more emotional aspect.
I didn't know. See, for me, is like I didn't know if all the emotional stuff was like as soon as you like realized you're like, man, what am I gonna do with my collection? Do I have to be one of those first two people to now get this full collection up on eBay?
Yeah.
Or am I getting in a price war with somebody?
Yeah, it's insane. It's like, I think we'll see what I think
stuff like this only appreciates in value if you just keep it.
I think so. Yeah. I think for me, what's going to come down to though is that for me personally, I'm probably holding on to all my cards for the foreseeable future. Just because while we know Nisei is doing things, I want to give Nisei a chance. I want to see what happens. Mm-hmm. And that way, if I want to dip my toes in the water, I can jump back in and say, okay, I'll check this out. Just in case. I don't know what I'm going to do. And if I decide I don't want to do that, then the worst case, I can just make a really cool cube draft that everyone I know knows how to participate in.
Hey, all about that cube.
Yeah, right.
Nice.
So, yeah. But yeah, I don't know. Like, great event. Really, just to recap it, I guess. Really well run. Met amazing people that were fantastic. I got to spend time with people. What?
Nothing. Go ahead.
I got to spend time with people that I never get to see. Shout out to the Brits, Team UK. Mm-hmm. I got to, participate in an amazing level of commentary, like amazing production, and really just had a good time. I mean, I'm pretty sure that was a great vacation. Like that is not, for me, that was an ideal vacation. I got to go out, have drinks with people, enjoy a game that I very much like. And I mean, it was just great. Fantastic. I wish more people could have been there. I wish more people could have played. But I think it was a great send-off. I think it was a great final event for Netrunner. Final official event for Netrunner. I really do believe so. So, shout out to everybody that was there, and shout out to everybody that wasn't. Hopefully, the videos that are provided by PCHAC are going to kind of bring you into it, and you'll get to experience it even though you weren't there. You get to relive it. So, yeah, that's it. That was my Worlds recap.
Yeah.
From an outsider looking in, I can say that what it seems from my perspective, running from the broadcast headquarters here, as Hollis was the reporter on the ground. It seems like, everything was very well organized to a point, very well run, organized play program. Fantasy Flight seemed to really hit home, giving people a really cooler and more flushed out prize pool this year, especially for going to Worlds. That seemed to really get better the last couple of years, and now we saw the pinnacle of that. Shout out to a couple champs that, to me, the real deck doctors that are sitting at home that piloted the biotechs to very, very high placing.
Yeah. Saw that.
That was ridiculously nice to see. Just something like that after, in the sea of the sameness, it was really cool to see. Respect to anyone that kind of took Jinteki and that were kind of pushing it at the end. I got looking at some stats. They're saying that 39% Jinteki was the biggest represented pool, and that was followed closely behind NBN at 36%. Wayland sitting at 18%, and crazily enough, HB only at 6%.
By HB.
On the runner side of things, Anarch 56, Criminal 15, Shaper 28, mini factions represented 3%. Love seeing people go to these tournaments playing the mini factions. There was very respectable Atom play happening around there. One Atom making day 2.
Yeah.
Great, really great to see. Hats off to you guys for piloting that adventure. What else was there from me? I think those were the biggies that I'd like to give my shouts out to. People that went against the grain at a major tournament, try to go off meta. Shout out to the off meta boys and girls.
Yeah.
Alec, your side of things, quick.
Pretty much the same as what you said. I'll elaborate on that a little bit. I think it is totally rad that people showed up with their own little spice, whether that was off-brand or different or unique or exciting ID, or just a different take on a deck that other people were playing. I love seeing all these little spicy cards show up in decks that you thought you knew, like Lady Liberty in CTM. I believe Spags had that one there. That was cool. All the times that the Archivist showed up, which is awesome because I love that card, and the people that just like tossed in a copy of the Archivist, it's like, nice. You know, you're trying different things, and it isn't, you know, totally cookie cutter across the board. That every so often there's these little sparks of creativity, and I think for a big last hurrah event like this, it was great to see people kind of get back to the roots of what makes the game great, which is the ability to express yourself in the decks that you bring and the way you play the game. So hats off to everyone involved. It was a fun watch.
Yeah, very, very well done.
As the chat says, also shout out to Beckett, by the way, 11-year-old kid.
Yeah,
11-year-old that was on the bubble, and I mean, the joke I had heard and I kept repeating is that it felt like Beckett was sent from the future to teach us how to play Netrunner.
He was fast. He was like, he was real deal. It was cool.
Yeah, like definitely a fast player, a little messy, but great player. Like great. Yeah, I mean, being 11.
Hey, we don't need to mention names, but some of the top players of our game are a little messy with board state.
Player. You know, you're right. You're right. It's like why is your daily cast next to your program? I don't understand. But yeah, I mean, he's a fantastic player.
So he was on the nobody wanted to step down and let him slide in, or is this?
No, I think the mood was still got to earn it. You know what I mean? Like, you still got to earn it. Just because you're being good isn't good enough. You got to earn it. But he kicked butt. Totally kicked butt.
Nice.
What else was there that was massive? Man, it was just so much. It was just there was a lot of stuff. There were a lot of things that were happening there that day. I also remember a lot of the things I couldn't watch behind me because I was in front of a camera having to like sit down. But it was a lot. I was really, really happy with the games I saw on stream. There were some interesting shenanigans. Oh, that's right. Ben mentions Oracle J. Is it Brandon?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Brandon King, I believe. Brandon King, of course, visually impaired, and he had to have out of Dean's meta, he had to have someone who basically didn't know how to play Netrunner but could tell him what the cards were. Basically, Brennan, we had Brennan on stream. They nicknamed the person that's telling him cards as Oracle J. Shout out to Oracle J. It was a pleasure watching Brennan on stream. Man, it was just great. And I agree with you. I think the biotech deck's insane.
So cool.
Yeah, it was just cool.
Nice.
All right, perfect. So for those of you people that tuned in for the World's recap and thoughts and feelings and all the squishy stuff and Hollis's real talks and things for that, thanks very much, and we'll see you on Wednesday. Those of you who are sticking around for the massive run-through still, hold on. Hold on. We didn't come this far just to peek out on the last bit here.
Yep.
Whew. All right. Let's do it, lads. We are going through every single corporation card of the Reign and Reverie Deluxe box, starting at the top with HB and working all the way down to the one neutral card. It's going to be a good time.
Ready? Starting now. Good,
Sports
bad,
metal.
good, bad, bad, good, bad, 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 good, bad, done. Out.
Hey.
Thanks for tuning in, everybody. Bye.
All right, yeah.
No.
Glad to cut all that. Nice.
You know, if we really had like an editing team, they would hate me. Hell, when
Yeah.
I edited our videos, I hated myself.
Yeah, probably.
All right, sports metal. Let's dive into this stuff.
Sports metal. I've been running this ID a little bit. It is fun. It is a little high variance because you're packing in a lot more agendas than usual. But when you go off hard. With the combination of cards we're going to talk about later, you could power out 3-point agendas easily to win the game, but only if the runner has stolen enough agendas. So it's a little swingy, but it is super fun. So sports metal gets a thumbs up from me.
So if you're saying if you were at Worlds, HB would have been at 7%.
I don't know about that. It's not my favorite ID. I've just been playing it and enjoying it, and when it wins big, which is cool.
To me now, there's only one real standout HB in the competitive market, and this is it. This is a really good power that plays to both sides of what HB can do. A lot of comboing, a lot of setup. They didn't have to doctor the 45-15 any which way there. Go big or go home, sports metal. That's basically it. If you're an HB guy, you're probably leaning towards this unless you're off meta and you're like me and still trying to figure out how next design works.
Combo deck. Combo deck or otherwise, the biggest benefit is that this card helps you maintain tempo as you go fast. And so basically that's what most fast advanced decks throughout history have always wanted. They've wanted to score but still have economy or cards that allow them to keep coming with the next scoring, the next agenda scored. So because this works either when an agenda is scored or stolen, either way it's going to help you keep up that tempo on your deck, which of course is why it's chosen over other HPAs.
Yeah, very well said, Hollis. I think that sums it up. This is very strong in a rush format and plays very well to tempo.
Mm-hmm.
Thumbs up.
Sweet.
Yeah.
Thumbs up.
Hey, there you go.
All right. Hyperloop extension. 3-1 agenda. I basically would only ever play this in sports metal, but in sports metal it rocks, and I want to see it, and I want to play it. No one's on Film Critics, so it's easy money, and it's easy score. So put him in your sports metal decks.
Yeah, I got nothing else to say other than that too. I mean, this is the yin and the yang. You want to create some kind of tempo. There's a 3-1 for you with a pretty decent ability.
Yeah.
Tempo. Like, I mean, that's the name of the game, right? It's all tempo.
Yeah. Turns out they printed a lot of good cards for this ID in this box.
Yeah.
It helps you retain tempo. That is basically. I know you guys are expecting more, but that's literally why this card is played. That's it.
Yeah. No, that's it. Got it.
Easy. Next,
Meridian. Meridian is fine. I don't love it because the ice just goes away. They could just be like, cool, I'll take it. And yes, it helps towards your sports metal count of agendas in their score area, but it also means you went through all this trouble installing a piece of ice that only kind of works once, maybe, and then not ever again. So even in sports metal decks, I've sort of been taking this out. Not a huge fan.
I'm the same way. Honestly, what really trips it up is that if there was a second, I don't even know how you could do it, but basically a barrier with no end run has to really be worth it. You know what I mean? Compared to other barriers we've seen that that don't have those as well. But this one here does not seem to be worth it for me in the long haul. And also, if you want to play that whole trickery and take minus agendas, what's this doing in HB? Unless you were, it's again, Alec, you said unless it's comboing more with that, the sports medal stuff where it's where HB was essentially rewarding the corporation side if their if their points were getting stolen anyway. So to play a little loosey goosey, maybe we would have seen other builds, and maybe we would have seen more. I'm going to feed this agenda to the runner. Some stuff happens, and this is a way to kind of again tempo the game out because I'm taking away points. But overall, I don't like the minus 1 agenda point. Because there are things that can be forfeited because it's still worth a point. This just didn't work with Shikyu in Jinteki. So how's it going to work for what you're spending here on an ice slot, let alone the cost?
Yeah. Yep. Sorry, Meridian. Nice try.
Bye. Yeah, no, I'm good.
All right.
You guys got it.
Other way around, because I know you saw this one on the table, Hollis. Gatekeeper, what are you feeling? You definitely saw it in play.
Yeah.
Was it impactful enough?
I think so. I think the biggest benefit of Gatekeeper is while it doesn't keep the runner out like long term, sometimes you just need it to trigger once, right? Like really the plan here is that I think there's an argument to be made in Netrunner where a lot of times ice is just a mathematical calculation, right? I mean, well, it's always a mathematical calculation, but ice doesn't do anything. It's just basically a numbers game of can I afford to break this? What Gatekeeper does is Gatekeeper has a cheap res and it uploads. It basically puts all of that barrier, all of that like initial cost, front loaded the first time it's encountered. So you can say, look, I'm not resing this until absolutely necessary, until I know it taxes you out to give me a window. And now I am going to, boom, here it is. I'm going to res this. You're going to pay a hefty fee right the heck now. And now I can basically get my window as I need it. So I kind of dig that. Or, and if they won't break it, it is like amazing, right? Because it basically gives you the ability to put agendas back in R&D. Hello?
From HQ or archives after you draw cards.
Yeah. I mean, that's pretty, it's pretty sick. Like, it's basically like, it will only ever really be super impactful one time, but that's all you need it to do is be super impactful one time. Either they pay a lot of money up front for that one time, or you're getting amazing value, which I think is worth it. I'd pay 3 to draw 3 and put 3 agendas in HQ and archives back. I mean, like, what?
Yeah. Totally. It's also so good against the most played decoder right now in the game, which is Black Orchestra, right? Yep. Black Orchestra cries against this card, and you only paid 3 to res it. So
so expensive. So expensive. Yeah.
I think this. I really, really, I like this card. I think there's a lot going for this card. I think this design space is actually really, really interesting, and I would have loved to see it go forward. I would have loved to see more of this style. I'm surprised that they didn't do a lot more of this stuff earlier. And I'm also kind of surprised that with this being what it kind of is, I'm kind of weary, but this to me sounds more like it should have been also Codegate or maybe a sub Trap Ice because of what it's doing. So I'm kind of surprised that it wasn't subbed Trap as well, or even just Trap, because of that surprise shock value that you guys described how it's being used. I mean, at 2, you could kind of, if you really wanted to, put it into Blue Sun, right? To be able to keep flipping it over and also get that positional change since you're getting like great bonus things on it. I think this is great value, and I really like it. So that's that from me.
Thumbs up. On the other side of thumbs up, which would be thumbs down, does anyone have anything positive to say about divert power? Because I'm going to be honest, I have not heard of this card getting used at all. Despite me being a little worried about it at the get-go, nothing's happened with this card.
I think to tie into what I was saying last time, so what you're giving is a pseudo Blue Sun derezzing. What you're getting here is to use cards like I was comparing the Gatekeeper before this one. It seems like the mechanic was going to flush out more, and maybe you would have seen a need for this card in HB if there was derez any number of cards, lowering assets, and doing things around based on how maybe the reception of Gatekeeper was. But because we're not seeing anything else flush out, it's basically a moot point here.
Right.
Yeah.
Definitely feels like it was like Jameson said, a potential future design space, right? Power of a design space, and I don't think we'll ever get to see it for all.
That's fine with me. It sounds scary. Let's talk about Fast Break. What do you guys think about this power operation? Gave my hand away a little bit there. I like it. What do you guys think?
Hollis?
I've seen this used in the combo, and I think that's where we're going here, where you play sports metal with a lot of ones, right? Uh-huh. And this card says, gain X, draw X, install X. I mean, it's just, you basically just going to throw a whole bunch of stuff out the runner can't deal with, and it's going to just basically lower it. The idea, I guess, is that you've got all these upgrades and assets that will help you fast advance and score, and then or what have you, and it's going to slow their tempo down. It's going to give you major tempo. But in order to do it, you have to feed them agendas that are really, really cheap. I think it's very cool that it does that, but I think it's an incredibly risky way to play the game.
Mm-hmm. So my notes on that is basically along the same lines, Hollis. I believe what they're trying to incorporate here is some kind of catch-up mechanic in the game, where if you are somewhat behind but still within reach, maybe you can recover, and it's not worth scooping your cards up yet because maybe you just drew the fast break that you need. But a strategy... I've never played the game and planned for these kind of strategies where it's like, well, if I'm going to be losing, this card is great. Like, I don't want to go in with that mentality already. So, and I don't like the whole I'm going to feed you guys, unless it's for a kill. Like, I can tell you that where my mind probably would go with something like this is those big Jinteki 1-point agenda Death by 1,000 Knives builds that I used to play back in the day. I'm definitely dabble with this card inside of that shell because I really like it. It was I love these kind of cards that fit into that. I don't think it will work because of cards in the past that I've used to boost economy heavy and Jinteki quick were always costed less than 4. And if something happens with your credit pool in Jinteki, because you're paying for traps, because you're paying for advancements and things like that, 4 is pretty steep to have in there, but that's the only place that I can see me liking something like this.
Well, I think this is baller in one deck and one deck only, and that's Sports Metal, of course. And in Sports Metal, what this allows you to do is actually pretty great. It sort of lets you get those agendas stolen in the early game, get up to 4 or 5 agendas in the score area, and this thing is part of a combo with the next card, Game Changer, which I'll also talk about, that just wins you the game. So the idea is you're not holding a lot of agendas in HQ because they've taken most of them out. You're heavily defending R&D. And then you just, when they've got enough agendas scored, you power fast break, click 1, use it to install the agenda that you draw, game changer, score it out, rinse and repeat, and then you're winning the game because you're scoring out global food initiatives from R&D with the combination of this card and game changer. So this allows you to limit the risk of holding around agendas in hand, waiting to draw the right pieces, because it gets you all the pieces you need. Now, granted, it is a little high variance, right? But that's the whole sports metal thing. And if you're into that kind of deck, I found this to be super fun. So fast break into game changer is a good time. I've had fun with it.
Yeah, very good thematic tie through. Again, I really have nothing to add from there because, like Alec, you were saying, this is that top to bottom theme that we're seeing with this sports metal style of deck. Again, would have been really interested to see this kind of style or this change in HB's play structure go forward. If HB was kind of going to be known as that new super fast advance, but the way to do it was to be able to have to pump up the runner score area a little, so you're flirting with that dangerously. It sounds like a really cool way to do fast advance going forward, rather than the whole just rewarding yourself with those Astro Train kind of stuff back in the day. So that really interesting design space, but not for me. And because it's influenced, maxed out, it's going to be very crafty to try and slot it somewhere else.
Yeah, I don't think you're seeing Game Changer anywhere else. Do you guys think the next one, Giordano Memorial Field, do you see that? Do you think that sees play outside of this deck, or even within this deck? Like, does the field make the cut?
So we're going. I forgot to change. Sorry, people, if you're relying on me to flip the card up here. I forgot to put Game Changer up.
Oh yeah, sorry. Game Changer conclusion.
There it is. 6.
Run in sports metal.
Yes.
But
6 too, eh? Pricey.
Yeah. Well, you get a lot of clicks.
Yeah. Hollis, what do you got on the Memorial Field here? Love the fact that it's a baseball one.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, in general, I'm not a fan. Do we just go offline?
I'm good. I hear you.
Oh, okay. For whatever reason, it looks like, I guess it's shame that for me. But no, like, I am not a fan of giving the runner agenda. Like, am I wrong? Am I weird? Does it make me weird? I feel like it shouldn't. I just don't. In general, I feel like on the corp side,
could be bad stream
unless
help.
you're. Oh, I feel like in general, unless you're on the corp side, with very few exceptions, right, where you can like exchange of information, or you're fast breaking, I just don't want to feed you agendas ever. And so this seems so specific. Like, whenever there's a successful run on this server, in the run, unless the runner pays 2 for each agenda in his or her score area, it just seems like that's not great. Because this is, like we talked about before, in the combination of Game Changer, Fast Break, and this all feels like comeback mechanics, right? It feels very much like I'm purposely giving you points just so now I have this amazing defense, and I'll catch up, and then I'll seal the deal. I'll win the game. Yeah. I just think it's very volatile. I don't like it.
Yeah, if you're already winning out the gate, like it was like playing Ian, right? Like now I have to feed them, right? Like what's that balance? Then if you're too weak and they take too much, you might be way beyond gone.
And isn't oh sorry.
Oh, I was just gonna throw out there that, to be fair, there are quite a few agendas in HB that you're totally fine getting stolen, like the Hyperloop extension we talked about earlier, and one that hasn't been mentioned yet, which is Domestic Sleepers. That card is dope, and you run 3 of those, and they steal it, and you're like, cool, man. You just made all my stuff better, and if you're sports metal, you got some tempo. So I agree it's high variance, and it may be that people like sports metal in a different style of deck, in a different take on it that isn't let them steal all your agendas. But you are rewarded by cards like Game Changer and Fast Break to roll that way. But I can understand it not being everyone's cup of tea.
Right.
So, then what's your thoughts on how HB ends?
I'll say that it's good that we got what is the best HB identity that's playable, right? That's competitively. And it also supports a different style to try to win the game where there's a lot of small agendas, whereas Jinteki had the death by 1,000 cuts. HB has this sort of like unique sort of card draw advancement by 1,000 agendas. I don't know what you want to call it. But at the same time, I feel like number one, there's sort of a gameplay mechanic that isn't fleshed out because they don't have the time to do it, which I would like to see just in case. And number two, I don't know if that playstyle that is introduced as far as like the score by 1,000 agendas, I don't know, feeding your opponent 1,000 agendas is really one that I'm a fan of. But I think they're weak. They're at one of the weakest points in the game by the end.
Well said, and I will say that that's my take on HB right now. Looking at this set, is that it feels incomplete. I think that it was a step in the right direction for a great design space to take a faction and to flush out. I would have loved to see where you can go with this kind of stuff, but right now, to me, this big box wasn't wrapping anything up. It was ready to push forward and lay the base of a lot of, in a vacuum, potentially a lot of powerful cards that will then be able to trickle out, almost like the core set mentality, right? Like you have your ID very strong going forward, giving them a bunch of good core cards, and then it will be the filler will flush it out, and without that filler and some of the flush, it just feels incomplete.
Yeah, that's sort of honestly how I felt about the whole HB faction for a long time, is that it's this confused, unclear kind of mess of different abilities, different flavor, different feel, and that's really been a boom or bust faction without a core strong flavor. And this kind of panned out. If anyone took a look at the results of that big poll that went around recently on people's favorite cards and factions and IDs, I believe HB was the least popular corp faction of all of them, and I think that speaks a lot to there not being as much iconic flavor in what was going on there. The IDs were all over the place. Some were way too good. Others were nigh unplayable. It always felt to me like if they had to cut out one corp faction, you could cut out HB, and Netrunner would still feel like Netrunner in a lot of ways. And I don't know if that could be said about any of the other corp factions. So for me, I like seeing HB taken in an interesting new direction like this, but it doesn't feel like it's getting back to anything central because I'm not sure that HB has ever had anything really resonant to define the faction at its core. So, yeah.
Cool. We step into Jinteki, one of my favorites here.
Whoa, Saraswati Mnemonics, Endless Exploration, the advanced trap deck. Crazy. What do you guys think of this? Have any of you seen this in action?
Nope.
I didn't see it on stream at all.
No.
At Magnum Opus. I think it's just like as a resident PE player or someone who spent a lot of time in PE, right? Jameson, you done some Jinteki stuff, right?
Yeah.
Is this like getting you excited?
Honestly, it really does. But I think the problem is timing. I really the way that the card pool was building with certain cards that we saw that that you were certain advanceable cards that were coming out that weren't agendas were really changing some cool aspects and pushing the game in that direction again, taking something back to basics. And this was, I think, is a really cool idea, and I think it's actually really powerful when it comes to that play style. The problem is that play style has never been dominant from a competitive side of things. So when your last kick at the can moving up is people going to nationals, people going to worlds, you're not going to see people put all their chips in a bluffing style of deck. It just doesn't resonate with that style of player, that competitive, you know what I'm saying, right? That top tier people don't want to risk everything on chance if it's, but for me, someone who loves to just be like, open server, install advance, come at me, bro, at me, man. I find that really fun and really exciting, and that's what I fell in love with Netrunner from the beginning. So seeing an ID like this was giving me a lot of hope, and I'm glad that it's there because it lets me take the style of play I liked and evolve it. So to me, this is like a 2.0 version of something that that I started with.
Mm-hmm. Cool.
I don't know. I feel like in this case, because it has to be installed in a remote server, right? Mm-hmm. You can technically put. I mean, it's cool that you can put it behind ice and automatically get an advancement token on it, so it saves you that click to advance. That's awesome. But I also feel like the majority of I think the most common play we see now with advancement strategies in Jinteki are often what they're it's either you're gonna have a card like Breached Dome where they hit it and take a meat, and there's no advancements necessary, or Snare, or it'll be like they're gonna Mushin. You know what I mean? Like they're just gonna Mushin it and advance ones, and that is that's super terrifying. Granted, this lets you also get 3 advancement tokens on something very quickly.
But 100 for sure, Hollis. But I think that what the excitement for me about this too is that if you listen to a lot of this talks that we had with Boggs about Boggs write-ups that he did officially for FFG, if you talk to him in person, he loved that old school Jinteki. So when he took control, I was really excited to see where he was going to push that Jinteki bluff, that Jinteki adventures, that whole advancement token style of stuff in there. This was the seed, man, that was coming.
I think it's pretty neat if you're into that style. The one thing that I'll say that for me does not quite take the edge over PE, at least from the looks of it, is with PE, there are reasons not to just hammer centrals and ignore all of their remotes. And that is that the ID works, that is relevant in all spaces. So you try and deep dig in R&D, maybe you hit a snare and 2 agendas, good night. There are things that slow you down. And that's the case with a lot of these IDs out of Jinteki. With this one, I don't know. If the runner isn't interested in playing your remote game, apart from normal Jinteki things, what's stopping them from just saying, no thanks, and then they head to R&D, and then they win?
Yeah, and I see what you mean, but I think that's what's... Every Jinteki plays a little bit different, like some of the interesting ones. I love PE, old school. I love biotech, how innovative that was. I like medtech. I was working on a lot of medtech builds at the end, and this is just another way that wasn't a clone of those things, right? So it was interesting. So I think that's that. Cool. Ready to flip on?
Yeah, let's see if there's any fun pieces for this ID. First up is the Juman agenda. Oh man. So we've only seen one other 2/6 before, and I wonder, does this one stack up? 2 free advancements, end of every turn. Is that something you guys are scared of, or dubious that it's gonna pay off for all the effort of scoring it?
I'm definitely dubious that it'll pay off. I think that it's in the right faction because of cards like Mushin, where you can do things like Mushin advance once, and your opponent is just like, I don't know. You know what I mean? Like, your opponent's just like, look, I don't know what to do here. I mean, if I leave it alone, you could just outright win or something. I don't know. But it's definitely in the right faction. But I feel like outside of doing something weird like a Mushin and then like your opponent leaving it alone, I don't see how you score this, right?
Right. For me, the death knell of this card, putting it from like maybe interesting to I don't know, is that it has to be a card installed in a server. And what that takes out of the equation is the potential to put this in something like Tenon, which oftentimes is advancing its ice.
Mm-hmm.
If that was the case, I think that would be game over. That would be so sick. But as is, I don't know. It kind of only really fits in that one deck, and even there, you got better agendas. Jinteki has some nasty agendas, and I just don't know if this makes the cut.
Yeah, I don't want to sound too broken record, but I mean, this is probably what it's going to be, guys. But unfortunately, I feel like dealing with what you're looking at, like with HB, you have cards that are core to how core support kind of for certain builds that could have flushed out. And what we could have had here is more of a fast advanced Jinteki, you know, with this plus the ID, different things that are happening. Now, mandatory upgrades was a powerful card, but not everybody was throwing mandatory upgrades everywhere. But there are certain times when, you know, it kind of was that off-meta style of play. I really love the fact that this exists. I love that it's experimenting with that difference. I think, unfortunately, it has to sit in this area because anything else lower than that 6, this is a ridiculous agenda then. Right now we're just like, oh yeah, this is Jinteki, and everyone's just like, that's Jinteki doing Jinteki, and you can just leave it at that because it's analyzed in that bubble. Is it going to be able to go back and fit into any kind of weirder, or is it going to be able to support any other previous IDs that were out? Probably not. Alec, you hit a great one with Tenon because of some of the wording, but with this card here, it plays so well into a lot of things. I wish we had more time to love you.
Dang. Well, you know what I think you could fit in a Tenon deck? I'm not a Tenon expert, but the next card really makes me think. If you're building a remote in Tenon, which I don't often think you do, but if you've built one, you might want to put this card in there. Because I think Apex Keeper Isabel is really sweet, and it's some really nice value for a deck like Tenon that's doing advancement tokens anyway. And this card is great art, so I'm a fan. Thumbs up.
For all the programming and tech people out there, I think it's really funny that the API tie-in. So here the API's keeper. Jinteki has always walked this weird line with money. And I talked about it before about what they really needed to do to make money back in the day was expose everything to you, celebrity gift. Hey, this is my hand. You know, come at me. Or and you look at something like this, I think this is a really cool economy card for Jinteki. If you can get stuff going around and you have your advancement tokens all over the place, what there was always a problem with is putting out a trap, baiting the trap, and then not being able to do anything with advancement tokens on that card. It essentially became dead weight, and there's some games where opening play, you put some stuff out there, install advance, and nobody would touch it for the rest of the game. I mean, sometimes at the very end of the game, they'd be like, that was a fetal that I left there the whole time. But other times, if that was your trap and they didn't touch it, then what were you going to do? Trick of Light here and there, but it's awesome to see cards like this coming out. And I could really see where this card was going with the advancements, with other advanceable cards in the game, other little traps, NGO, blah, 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 blah. It's on it, man. I like it.
Yeah. 3 credits. Nice payout.
I think that when I look at the decks that would normally run this, in this case, I'm thinking of the biotech kill decks. The issue I have is that even if he did like a Mushin and he put a card that was advanced that couldn't do anything, he would just leave it. Like it would just sit on the table. I think there is value in being able to take a failed trap and getting credits back. I think that there is value in that. But often I feel like the majority, the big picture is it's probably better just to leave it on the table. Because for the runner, especially when you get down to game point, the issue that how the biotech decks were winning is I would imagine at some point they get to that 3 or that 4, and now it's okay. I have to watch carefully because if this is the game-winning agenda, maybe I check it now. And so there's actually, in a weird way, it gives them additional space to play if they just leave the advancement. But I also see the value in just saying, no, now the card's dead. It's a trap. They absolutely won't run it. I can tell they're not going to run it. Let me gain my value back from whatever, how this card's advancing. So definitely very specific deck styles are going to try to slot this in. And a trash 4, that feels fine also, by the way.
Yeah.
Trash 4 seems good for this.
Totally.
Very respectable.
The stats are solid.
Very well tested.
Yeah.
Oh.
I'll take that.
Nice.
We'll take it.
All right. Let's talk about some neurostasis.
This card is phenomenal.
Like, this is seriously nasty. I don't know if we've seen an effect this potent against the runner in a long time. It's just, and for 3 credits too. It's like, oops. I'll take your 2 best things, 3 best things on the board, and just goodbye.
This is taking that Junebug style of stuff, and then honestly doing things that I'm
honestly super sad that this card came out so late.
Yeah.
I have not been seeing it a lot, and I think that if this was in the game longer, that people would come to really respect it as a threat in the way that Junebug has its time, Overwriter has its time, right? That these are cards that people are like, well, could be one of those. I think this is right there in that echelon of traps, and I don't think people are going to get to experience it.
I instantly thought back old school when, was it Ming had one in his... In his World PE deck, he came second because he was running one copy of. He changed it the last minute, I believe the story goes, when he came over to America to play. He had a single copy of Shattered Remains to deal with some stuff, right?
Yeah.
Yes, Alec, 100%. This card, if it had have existed previous, I think you would have been seeing this not only in Jinteki, but in a lot of other factions. This is a heavy board reset, man. This fits into not only Jinteki style kill deck things, but in the Jinteki Glacier builds. It fits into, like I say, other factions. This is phenomenal trap. Probably one of the best we've seen. I think most people would rather take this than doing net damage and stuff like that, because nothing can this is hitting. This is hitting, and this can dominate and just swing a game. I am honestly so shot through the heart that this came out when it did.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
It's good.
Staying good.
Moving on, Hollis, you just echoing that?
Oh yeah,
Hollis, you echoing that?
He's just good.
Thumbing it up. All right.
I got that, Jameson.
Okay.
Slow, but I got it.
All right.
All right, Hollis. I heard you throwing out some Value Town quotes at the worlds there, and so I'm going to put the value test on you here. Pop quiz. Orotoshi, right? They get 3 advancement tokens on a card at a server, and then the runner can pay 3 to not access that card. Is this piece of ice worth it?
Are you just asking Hollis right now, right? Hollis?
It's a pop quiz. You know, value quiz.
So while I don't think the card is good, I do think there is value. I think there's good value here because if we're just doing the math here, you're automatically gonna get 3 advance. If it triggers, you're automatically gonna get 3 advancements. That would normally be 3 clicks and 3 credits. In this case, you just get 3 advancements, and then and the runner has to pay 3 to not access it. So, I like the trade-off of a 5 strength sentry that only costs me 2 to res, the advancements if it hits, and then you have to pay the 3 to not touch that card. I think that makes it very interesting.
So the only thing, so to me, this is red through and through. This is, you're putting this in your Jinteki mind games. You're playing a Jinteki feel to it. It's all about Jinteki. The only complaint I have about this card is that I don't know why it's a sentry, because even the way Hall's described it, it should have been a code gate probably.
Yeah, it's funny. You look at a card like this, and my mind immediately goes to RSVP. Like, it's that weird kind of sits out there, and it doesn't end the run, but it kind of messes with the run.
Any kind of taxing effect like that, too,
Yeah.
right? Like, you're thinking code gate, so I don't know why it swings to Sentry. To me, it's only Sentry if you advance that trap, and then they hit, and then the damage is done, right? So,
sure.
But if it's like pay and they hit and they access an agenda or something and then they're winning, then yeah, it was a code gate because all it did was tax them down. So
yeah,
weird.
Yeah, this one's kind of weird. I don't love it. I feel like 3 credits is not a lot to pay. It's how much. It's like the going rate for breaking a good amount of ice anyway. And I don't know. I don't necessarily play a lot of decks that advance stuff in servers like this, like trap stuff. So maybe in the Swissardi deck, like, great. But for me, I don't know. Yeah,
and
doesn't have the run.
No, you know what though? To touch on that piece as well, it's a really weird ability from that perspective because it all depends on a moment in time and what the Century Breaker is. Right? Because regardless, right, even if you don't have that, like you can see that it's a $3 tax, right? Yep. So I mean, even if you have a century and just say it's a meta where, it would break this for, 4 credits, 5 credits, whatever. If it was something that was so like, I'm going to put this in here because it's counteracting the hot century at the time. Well, it's built into the routine that it's already telling you how many credits you need to pay for it. So, I mean, the only thing too is that if it would be in like something stupid, I don't know. But I like I say, it's going to be red. I don't think it's anywhere else.
Yep. All right. Well, this is a card that was, I believe, seeing some competitive tournament play at Worlds. This was Thimble Rig. Hollis, did you see Thimble Rig?
Oh yeah, we did.
Tell us about some thimble rig. I think this is a confusing one.
All right, well, so you'll see the card on there, but basically it says when your turn begins or whenever the runner passes thimble rig, you may swap thimble rig with another piece of installed ice, and it's 0 strength, 2 to res, 1 influence though. So it basically the card is being 1 influence does not go anywhere. That's the first thing. But the flexibility this gives you as the corp to move around your ice as needed is amazing. You can place a strong piece of ice on your archive just because maybe you're worried for a turn because you've got agendas there. Maybe you have a gatekeeper there and it's doing work that one time. And then after the game's gone on, you're like, you know what? I'm not going to pitch any more agendas. And gatekeeper's not that bad or not that good, but maybe it's better than thimble rig on my R&D, so we're just going to swap it. And I just love that. Like, I love having that option. And it's not just when your turn begins, it's also whenever the runner passes it. So you can just straight up say, like, hey, you know what? Let me go ahead. Let me correct this now for a problem. That flexibility on the corp side is amazing. I feel like it's something that corps have needed for a long time or should have had since the beginning. I love this.
Well said, Hollis. 2 thumbs up from me. The versatility being 1 influence there, and like you said, being able to correct game state for yourself, mid to late, where you hate to install something early game somewhere and later on you just overwrite it and get rid of it, right? At least this way you're like, I have use for it, but just not where it was, so because it could be taxing you out that 1 extra credit in a big server, but it's not doing what it needs to do, so you can move it and apply protection somewhere else. Really awesome card. With IDs that we've seen in Jinteki, this works very well in faction too. And I mean, this is if I wasn't such a trap and bluffing guy, this would have been my card of the probably card of the pack. But it's got stiff competition from our old ambush up there.
All right, so trap bluffy guy, how does Hangeki sit with you? It seems to me like the closest comparison is like an offer you can't refuse, and I don't know how many people play that card. And I guess if you have traps already, you can get this off pretty reliably, but I don't know. -1 runner point. Is that really helping you win?
So I mentioned this before, and I just don't feel that is that heavy worth a look for an include in your deck. Usually, so the problem is that it's competing with so many other awesome Jinteki cards when you're building a Jinteki deck. That's the reason, she Q. Like I was like, oh, this is a great, it's another thing, blah blah blah. It works, but the thing is that look at what you had it competing against for deck space, and you're like, do I really need this? No, it's just something that is just the icing on a cake. It's, same with something like this card here. It's interesting, but it's not pivotal. This is not the cog that the rest of the deck is spinning around. This is just filler. And that's how I feel about it.
It's not a positive point in your direction, and so it's only ever slowing the runner down a little bit. And to me, that's what puts this in such a low tier compared to something like Clones Are Not People, which we did see in play, right? That was like the linchpin biotech card at Worlds. People were scoring out with that thing, and that got you to 7 points, right? 3-pointer, get that 1 point, and you're good. And I don't know. The negative point there, it gets shredded by Artist Colony, ShadowNet. It's just like...
Yeah.
I think it'd be totally different if this was a positive point for the Corp, but because it's a negative point for the runner, I just don't see it.
Hollis, that was very well said at the end. Yeah, I mean that's a good summary to end on.
It just doesn't cut it. Like it not only does it not cut it as far as like the ability it offers, but then it also is conditional, right? Because you have to have trashed a corp card. I'm like, nah, get this out of here. So.
Yeah. Next.
All right, well here we go. Let's round it out with the adorable Daruma. Swapping a card with a card in a server with an agenda, yada yada. I feel like this card is predictable. I've played against it a couple times in person, and I don't know. This feels like Plan B or like Yuki Sakai all over.
Yeah, that's where I was gonna go. You know, it's just we've seen this format before, and really the only one I thought was cool enough but doesn't see enough play is the Plan B. This is a fizzle at the end of Jinteki. Upgrade to
yeah, but you know that's what a lot of Jinteki has been over the years, which I think is great.
Fizzle?
Is that no. Well, every so often you come up with these really interesting weird cards like Mamba and Whirlpool, right? Like weird stuff, but they defined all these interesting little possibilities within the Jinteki space, and to me, Jinteki has always represented this like scary flexibility where you never quite know. Like for me, the iconic ID that symbolizes this kind of feeling is Polana. You sit down across from that ID and you're like, what are they going to do? Are they going to try and kill me? Are they a glacier? Are they fast? I don't know, but I know I have to be a little scared. I have to be a little cautious because they've always got some tricks. They've always got some spice. So I really appreciate that about Jinteki. I've never been a big Jinteki player, but when I have, I've had a really good time. So.
Yeah, and I mean, I can respect where it's coming from, because in some of those glacier style builds, maybe you were throw an agenda in there and you're like, okay, this is my window, and then something happens and the runner gets boosted up, and then they start the run on it and you're like, oh, garbage, they've got this. At least now they're like, no you don't, right? But I don't know if it's, again, I think you're fighting for a lot of space in a Jinteki build. And like we said off the top, bottom line, might as well move on because this style of play has never worked previously.
Nope. But Jinteki's a great faction. People really love it. In the big Netrunner survey, people showed most loyalty to Jinteki in their top card picks. And Snare, fun fact, took the top slot as people's favorite overall corp card.
Yeah,
so
very, very awesome card. Quick thoughts going around then on Jinteki.
Yeah, I think I said my piece.
Hollis?
I think it's fun.
Yeah, I think Jinteki ends on a very good note. Not just at the end of the game. I mean, not just there's a couple. There's some okay cards here, but I feel like in general having Empty is a very powerful ID in general for the end of the game. They have a little bit of fast advance as an option for them, right? Because they still have cards like Medical Breakthrough and is a Shipment from Tenon. That allows them to get some fast advance options. That's the thing that's there. They of course have all the defensive agendas and defensive assets that can help that allow them to force the runner to lose tempo, and which in fact give them a window. And then of course MT and other cards that involve like an Anansi give them a glacier option. I think that they end the game effectively powerful to have a lot of different options and actually a lot of flexibility because of that. You could probably sit in front of a Jinteki deck playing Empty as an example and not 100% know what their plan is, which I think is cool. Or Polana, right? And not know 100% what their plan is.
This batch of cards more than ever, I feel like can be translated backwards into IDs that we've seen. These are cards that you're going to be able to maybe not to great success, but they all play into one mold or another of Jinteki's style of play. Nothing here is saying this is a brand new thing the faction has never seen before. And just like HB, where we said it's not complete, you can take these cards and be able to actually enjoy them, play with them, do things with them going forward. I have no qualms about where Jinteki left off with this set here. I feel it's, though we had some, typical, I still feel like this is, this was a good kick at the can.
Nice.
All right, what did HB do?
MBN is up next, and their ID, Acme Consulting, is it's a weird one.
Don't like the name. Do not like the name.
Yeah, it's a little flavor-wise. I don't quite know what's going on. I feel like Asmari EdTech was such a iconic flavor, power, everything about EdTech is really cool and interesting. And Acme, I just don't. I don't really see it. I guess it buffs up certain ice, but it's just not a very flexible ID. It's like, okay, it turns on a number of ice that you otherwise might not have played, and then you call it a day. So for me, I think there's a reason why we really didn't see this on any of the top tables.
I don't really have anything else to say there. You talked about the comparison to the other, not even Asmari, like in faction, controlling the message is still is still out there, right? This, because it's forcing you to play a certain style, because its ability is so narrow-minded to that one time when there's an interaction there. To me, it's not bringing enough to the table to challenge me or to entice me down this path. That being said, I don't want to talk all negative, but I really assume that this probably laid base to things to come, where we would have maybe seen a lot more crazier ice. But unfortunately, that's not going to happen. Talking with what we have here, Alec, that's the reason why we didn't see it around, because it doesn't fit right now.
I'm in agreement with what you just said, Jameson, and I'd like to add that I feel like this is the kind of card where, because we don't know what's in it, we obviously don't get a future. If it was going to be basically given as is right now, knowing no cards come, maybe would have been nice to have additional influence here to make up for the limited effect, but it is what it is.
Yeah. NBN's such a weird faction where it's like each one of their IDs is doing something so crazy, and to be able to boost a card pool that can equally support all those styles is just, I think, unattainable. What do we get from an agenda look?
All right, so fly on the wall gives the runner attack when you score it. I think I've seen this around a little bit. I think there's some combo stuff that you could pull off with this where you can get this guaranteed tag and do some tricky things with it. I don't know. It's a 3-1. You need to put in some work to fast advance it out. I guess maybe you could put this in a horizontal deck and kind of sneak it out that way. And then do something tricky with the tag. But I don't know. I think there's better tagging options, and there's way better agendas. And honestly, of all the factions, probably because we saw so much controlling the message on stream, I feel like they're the faction that have their agenda suite the most figured out.
Yeah.
Like the fact that there are regional differences in distribution of agendas. Hollis, I know you guys talked about this on stream. Like, what was the cut of the different one-pointers there? Like, that to me says that the bar of agendas is super high in that faction, and I don't think this is anywhere close to those.
Nope. I mean, think about it. Like you said, CTM, controlling the message plays, has ANR enhanced security as well as quantum predictive model. And those two things either, like, because of additional support in NBN, either give you a point or make it so that whenever your opponent trashes your installed cards, they have to take a tag. So given those two extremes, either your tags and I get a point when you access, or you trashing my stuff gives you a tag. A card that just says when you score, mind you, not when scored or stolen.
Yeah.
Gives you 1 tag is way worse.
Yeah.
It's just like comparatively way worse. Like this card gets way more merit if it says scored or stolen.
Were we really missing breaking news? Like, was anyone really missing it that we had to just give it a fix?
Right.
Yeah. I've said it before, and I echo your points. This agenda suite has its defined set. Adding something like this into it is not going to help.
Oh well. SIU though, I have heard about seeing some sneaky play. I seem to remember that this showed up in Spag's list, the controlling the message list. Basically, it's like it's a nice little trick to sneak out that tag at the beginning of the turn. See source without a run, and that's pretty powerful. So I think this is a good card.
I'm okay with it. Like, I wish I had a better, like, something more, grand to say, but it does just feel like it's
got 1 out.
Fine.
Mm-hmm. Nice.
I mean, you basically pay the res cost up front, right, for the Trace 3.
Yeah.
So you just invest. You basically res an asset. You invest immediately, and you trash it. When your turn begins to give the runner 1 tag. The biggest benefit here, of course, is that it's legit saving. You're simply taking the click and you're saying, I'm going to invest it now so I have the option later to get a full 3 clicks as I give you this tag.
Mm-hmm.
And I can do whatever that means. I can trash resources multiple ways. I can do a trash resource, close accounts to you, and do something else. Like, that's the option. The biggest benefit, right?
Mm-hmm.
But that's it.
Well, but you can also catch a runner on a turn where they're not prepared.
That's true too.
And that's why
they
I
don't
think
have to run.
Yeah.
That's why I think it's a great one of sitting there or to catch like MBN tags, and this is just a way that most people are usually waiting for certain windows when those tags are going to hit. This is a great surprise tagging mechanic. Cool.
Well, speaking of surprises, I think you'll be surprised when a Peeping Tom is rezzed against you, because I've played against this card, and it was pretty weird. So you guys, can you guys think of a deck or an ID that this fits into? This strange piece of ice.
What is it what's Salem's? Am I right there?
This is just so weird. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
It has so many moving parts. I'm with the Jameson philosophy of when you start seeing a whole bunch of text and then a whole bunch of word effects, I'm often like, maybe just not worth it. Like maybe right. There's just too much going on here.
Yeah, I think his Harashandra, if I'm not mistaken, is the one where if the runner's tag, you get to look at their hands.
Yeah.
So I guess in that deck, this gives you another way to peek at that hand and maybe targeted marketing, Salem's Hospitality.
That's where I was thinking, right? I went with Salem.
Yeah.
Salem's Hospitality. If you're playing that style of, this is not really a new mechanic style we've seen, but
right.
They've just moved it out to the ice.
Yeah, it's not super terrible because your odds of getting at least 1 sub, I don't know. The fact that to me that this does stone cold nothing if the runner has no cards in hand, it just kind of, I don't know. I don't think this.
Yeah, I've never been one to be on board with these name a card, like without having some kind of thing built in. So maybe if you're playing that style of build, like we've already mentioned a couple of them that open the hand up, give you those peaks, and those peaks can be then translated for use with other cards. Okay, but more often than not, You're not just putting this around it.
To me, they got this kind of effect perfect the first time they tried it out. Well, I don't know. Snoop maybe came first. Well, maybe it wasn't the first time. But when they did targeted marketing, I thought that card was perfect for what it was trying to do. 0 cost. It's a current, clears currents. The upside is absurd, right? 10 credits if it hits. And it created this fascinating little mind game. You name a Count Siphon, they're like, oh. You name Corroder, they're like, oh. Right? Like, that to me was so sweet, that interplay. And I don't think they've gotten it quite that good.
Yeah, well said.
All right.
Hydra.
Oh, man. Hydra. Guys, this card is crazy. Like, are you serious with these subs? And the art is bang. Like, I honestly think that this could be classified as a god ice in terms of cost and impact and cool ass art. Like, Hydra is thumbs up for me. I like it a lot.
I'm just like, where am I actually ever gonna play this? Like, that's the thing. It is nuts. You have, because it seems nuts. Like, this is crazy. 3 damage tag.
Played with success.
Oh yeah, I was on Liza Tag Me, and so I had like 14 tags, and then they res this against me. Oh no!
Yeah,
it went real bad.
And that's the thing. Like, it's a 6-string Sentry with 3 subs, so it's gonna be expensive to get through. And even if you're not tagged, this card basically says you're gonna. I mean, starting at the top, it's the first subroutine is gonna fire. It's like, I have no tags. Well, now you're tagged. So now you suffer the other 2. So I guess I gained 5, and then I'll end the run.
Yeah. Bye-bye.
Yeah, and I mean, I guess that's the interesting thing. If the second subroutine fires 1 time, which obviously design-wise, it's smart for them to put it as second, so that you get the tag first, and maybe you try to get the value back for paying 10. But I don't know, man. That's expensive. I get it. We're willing to res cards like Anansi. I get it. You know, like that's expensive. But 10's a big ask, right?
Sure.
Toll Booth, big ask.
Yeah, see, Toll Booth was the marker for me, right? Where I'm like, oh, there's times when you're like, this is a steep card. And to me, it's just like, I see the value of everything that's happening with this card except the res cost. I'm like, oh.
But the runner walks away with a tag, which isn't nothing. Yeah. Like,
if you can, especially in the way that things are going right now, I saw a lot of tag me play going down. So, you know, time and place, fellas, time and place. But 10 is steep. True.
But I like it. It's flashy, and I like that kind of stuff. All right. Cool. So let's chat about Eavesdrop a little bit. This is a pretty weird one. I've not seen this one played yet. That you, for one, you put it on an ice, and it gives it a trace 3 for a tag. Hollis, this sort of gets at something that you've talked about quite a lot, which is giving ice impact, even if the runner is fully set up with breakers. Like, this gives you that win and counter effect wherever you want. And the fact that you could put this on a key server or a beefy piece of ice, or even a little piece of ice, like, I don't know. I think this is kind of neat.
I think, actually, and this is what's, I don't want to be too long-winded here because I know we're trying to rush through all these, but however, I do think that if you're going to have a card that modifies ice, I personally feel like with how that should be done, similarly to how I think should happen with currents, is they should have made, number one, they should have made all of these cards like this very high influence, but be like a cost of 0. And that way you can, like, granted, this is really strong, but giving ice that permanence of, okay, well, now here you go. This, I'm going to pick a card. This resistor, now as a cost of 0, has an additional, like, trace 3 is successful, give the runner 1 tag. And then, of course, that combos with resistor. But it's 2 cards. Like, you're using, this takes a card slot. So this is taking place of possibly an IPO or whatever, an exchange of information or something to give this. And I don't even think this is the kind of card you necessarily even put 3 of in a deck. You, like, because it's so difficult to remove these, you have to kill the ice. this is the kind of card where you want 1 or 2, and you want to plop it on a piece of ice on R&D or HQ to make it super taxing all the time. So I'm happy this card exists because it does exactly what I want. It gives the corp the ability to say, ice has this permanence that isn't just, or this effect that isn't just, how much does it cost? Now I have to actually have this extra game that has an win and counter ability. But I dislike it has a cost to begin with. I think it should cost 0. Whatever. I mean, maybe that's busted. I'm just saying.
Well said from the design perspective. I feel the same way. I think this is really awesome to see them move into this space. For the reason Alex said is giving ice a second use. Mm-hmm. NBN has better ways to tag though. This is something that would have been awesome if they had flushed out. Putting a encounter ability on a piece of ice, like adding that on, not a sub, adding an encountered ability, I think is incredibly awesome. So thumbs up from a design perspective, thumbs down for what the card is actually doing.
For all you prospective Nisei designers out there, or people contributing to that effort, let me just put that out there. A design idea. Make this kind of card, but make this card also a piece of ice, so that you can choose to either install it as a normal, like, not amazing piece of ice, or graft it on, mod it on.
Man, that's
other ice.
Holy shit!
Combo together.
Mod it.
Holy shit! That's
boom,
amazing.
boom, 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 boom.
Wow, because that would mean now, like, especially when you look at like the install cost of ice, right? Like, if you look at the grand scheme of things, when you have all this extra ice in your hand, yeah, you want to be able to recover from cards like Apocalypse, but in general, what will happen will be that you've got a fair amount of ice, and some ice become useless, or they just you just don't want to pay the 3 costs to install them as the 3rd, 4th piece of ice in the server. So that sounds amazing to give ice that duality of saying, hey, this ice works as ice, or has the duality of maybe one of these effects that this ice normally would do can be added to another piece of ice.
I think that's a great idea. It's almost like a different perspective of the next ice, right? Where combined, like, ice on top of each other as you're stacking the same ones, it's getting stronger, right? And then call it like Burkabugs 2.0.
Or Patchwork 2.0, because it feels like that's exactly what the design plan was. It feels like you look at a card like Patchwork. Is it Archer that's breaking through? I can't remember.
Talking about Patch.
I'm talking about Patch. Yeah, that's what it is. Where you look at that and you're like, what? Hold on, this should have been the case to begin with. It seems like what should have happened all along is that if you have an amazing piece of ice that, I don't know, that is high influence, it should probably have an amazing other ability besides just it has these good numbers. Like, whatever. Sorry. Going on a tangent.
Let's get on. Go. Let's get on.
Cool. Alrighty.
Attitude adjustment.
Pretty solid. Draw 2, shuffle stuff back, and you get money for it. Like, to me, this is all upside, and I really like this card. 2 influence too.
Yeah. This
sounds great.
Yeah, this is 100%. Every faction got a way to sort of deal with agenda flood, kind of, sort of in their own way, right? And this is NBN's, and I like it. I mean, it's in a world without Jackson. This seems fine.
This seems like it's doing a lot. It's interesting that you have to reveal. Too bad it's just not any 2 cards, right? But yeah, I mean, it is what it is. If you feel you need this ability, then here it is for you.
But it gets stuff out of archives too, which I know we're not living in the hell of 0 clan vengeance anymore, but this is a pretty sweet counter to any kind of mill or HQ hate. Like, yeah, big fan.
What do we got at the last tier?
All right, we've had a lot of faction in this box that have ended with like, not that amazing finishes for their final card. But let me tell you, plus Salvatore, this card is the truth. It is pretty solid.
Don't sleep on the Zyliger art.
Yeah, What a way to finish out this faction. And crazy that this is like ending up in other factions. I think there's some HB decks that are running this, right? It just gets stuff done if you want to score agendas fast. I'm impressed with this card.
Hollis, you got a quick take? Hey, sorry. I mean, first off, shout out to R.A. Salvatore. R.A. Salvatore, right? The writer. Because I mean, the fact that she has a dragon in her art is pretty much a definite nod. Mm-hmm. But we saw this on stream used to some effects in order to make sure that they could fast advance agendas. So I definitely think this has a place. It's a decent card. I like it.
I think this is everything you're kind of looking for in an upgrade. Low res, high trash. It's a, if this is an ability that you need, I think this is a card that you're not going to have a problem putting in your deck. 3 influence, very well costed for its ability, and Alec, like you said, that's still not stopping it from appearing outside of yellow. So I'm really for this card. I think it's great. What's interesting is that we're seeing, I think, a lot of cleanup now, where you'll notice the theme is everything's like in this server. From this server, it's not like in the past you'd have something out there and it would affect the entire board state. Now they were just being a little more cautious. Things are being cleaned up, and that's what I think. But I think that's all. I think that's reasonable. So
yeah,
it's it's not an oh my god, and it's not a oh my god.
But I think that's fine, right? Like, I think that's the space that sysops really should be. It's a shame when they're not quite good enough, and you're just like, well, why would I need them?
Oh, we've seen some horrible sysops.
And we've seen some bad ones. But we've also seen some ones that have gone too far, like the Brian Stinson kind of effect, where that guy goes off and it's just like game over. I feel like sysops right in this area. And Georgia Emelov, that card too, like that they're just these sweet little effects and the characters feel really iconic. To me, that's great. So thumbs up.
Right now, NBN, and it's not just right now, has a identity crisis. And I don't mean the actual ID, but I don't think it knows where it wants to be. We've noticed a lot of little mini abilities and them stepping away from fast advance, trying to step away from kill, but I mean the player base is forcing that as much as the design space is trying to sway you. But we're seeing, like you look at all the stuff that's happening here about more tagging. You look at the cycles before this where it's like cards are getting put back. There's just an identity crisis happening in NBN. Nothing that we've just kind of gone through right now is good enough to steer that ship. People are going to play NBN. That's not to say the faction's bad, because obviously you can see the domination it has, but from the existing card pool. That's my take on NBN. You guys have anything else?
I just feel like they were in a dominant position before this, and NBN I think is ending the game also in a very dominant position. I think that they do have some unique kind of weird NBN options. It's almost like you can see like the glaciary option with things like Anzari, right? Sort of kind of, or Asmari, excuse me. But CTM, of course, super strong, and the fact that they even got more pieces to the kit that can make controlling the message so good, it does blow my mind. But it's so cool that cards like Ariel Salvatore, make that possible.
Yeah, it's remarkable to me that a faction that's been dismantled so many times still remains so dominant. But I think that speaks to the underlying power of these abilities. And then NBN, for the longest time, has really been self-sufficient in a lot of ways. And that has really kept it at the top. It's been my least favorite faction for a while, but honestly, I think it's good for any kind of flavorful game like this to have a villain. And for me, they really fit that foil perfectly. And so I appreciate all the people who love NBN. For a lot of people, it is their favorite faction, and they really just love that flavor. So yeah, I respect NBN, and I think its results speak for themselves.
Outfit.
Could there not be a more perfect ID for our little podcast? Man, I feel like the outfit is making some mad Patreon bucks over there.
That's the flavor text should have been.
Yep.
Family owned and operated.
Yeah. What do you guys think of this?
I love it. I think it cleans up what Grindel was trying to do, something with bad publicity there, but it was a little too steep when you mess with the influence values and the card numbers. But what we have on our hands here is something that is not going to be able to breathe. We're never going to see what was in Mr. Boggs' mind for going forward. I know from talking with him before, like I said, he really wanted to explore a couple things. He wanted to look at power counters, he talked about, and he talked to us about what he would like to do to go back to bad publicity. Bad publicity was a mechanic that we saw very early in the game's life, and then die out. And then the only time you ever saw bad publicity is either Wednesday or Thursday nights on YouTube, or when someone was playing Val. So if you got Val, you saw bad publicity, and that shouldn't be the way that I've already spoken what I think about Val, but this is, I feel that what it was going to do is put bad publicity back in the control of Wayland, the corporation, and really, 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 really loving the idea of this ID.
Yeah, thumbs up.
I think there's always been a question about Wayland's, like, about the bad publicity issue, right? It's always been a very difficult evaluation. Bad pub for the runner is a credit for the whole game. It could be worth 5 if the runner never ever runs and they only make like a couple good runs, right? Or it could be worth 30, 40, 50, whatever number is credits throughout the game, depending on what's trashed, how many runs are made. I mean, like, it could be insane. So yeah, I do feel like an ID for Wayland that says gaining bad pub will net you additional money to do more things with, is obviously good for, it's obviously good to utilize that as a mechanic. I still feel like as Wayland, you always wanted to try to maintain a very low amount of bad publicity, and also Valencia being very popular doesn't really help the outfit be great when you also want to maintain it. I don't know. I feel like with this ID, you'd always try to like be playing this weird game of how do I balance my bad pub versus the money I will gain, and it's hard. I would like to see more bad pub removal. That would make more sense. Whatever, it's fine.
But that being said, though, going forward, where we have cards like Broad Daylight, where it's semi-rewarding you, right? We're flipping this stuff on its head, right? Like you want to play Val against me, and I'm looking at a design space like this, where I'm getting a amped up private security force based on the number of bad publicity tokens that I have right now. Hey, maybe the name of the game is I'm just going to take some bad pub and score one of these.
See, I get where that's coming from, and I do appreciate that there's payoffs like this, but honestly, I have never been in love with agenda effects in the game that are great at very specific points in time, and either too early or too late, and it's just a total bummer to score this. To me, the most iconic version of that miss is corporate war, right? That card was so tough to be like, I don't have 7 credits. I can't score this thing or I lose my money. But it's an agenda that you put in your deck, and when it goes off, it's nice. But if it's the wrong time, it's terrible. Like, to me, I think it's such a shame that a card like Broad Daylight does not have an ongoing type effect.
Yeah.
Where maybe you get this agenda counter every time you take a bad pub. Like, you get one for every one you already had, and then for every new one, you get one too. Like, or that you could pay into it. I don't know. There is clearly really cool design space here. I just am not a fan of the cards that need to show up at the right time, because honestly, most of the time they won't. And for a 2/4, I don't know if that cuts it.
Yeah, well said. But I feel like it's going to play into right now. You're just basically feeding this into the outfit, right? So you're controlling that. This is basically saying that I'm at least going to get 1.
Yeah, and you get 2 meat damage once per turn.
Yeah,
I think there's a lot of restrictions on this.
It is, but it's something that I think was a lot interesting to see. A way to it steps in the right direction for things that they could have done with bad publicity, right? It's not like scoring Private Security Force back in the day and then you just bop, right? Chaining it through. So maybe because of that, some like extra restrictions were layered on this pizza, but I respect it that because it's stepping where it needs to go. 4/2 ain't bad. I think anything else might have been a little overkill. You don't want to see it be that worth a 1, and you don't want to see that be worth a move into 5/3 territory. That's for sure.
Yeah. Yep. All right. Well, Drudge Work. I think this is a totally different story. For me, this is the coming of the promised, right? This card, it's been a joke for years, I think. Put Jackson in Wayland, right? And I mean, dang, this is about as close to Jackson and Wayland as you're gonna get in a lot of ways. Yeah, for me, this is a total win. It's super strong. HQ or archives, you get money, you put it back. Yeah, I think it's great.
Yeah. Hey, I want to take credit for this. When we said put Jackson in Wayland, they listened.
There you go. Yeah.
We're taking full credit. I mean, I think this is fine. I hate that it uses a click each time, but
I hate that there's no way for me to quickly find my government takeover.
Oh my god!
You can fast track. Fast track, Drudge Work it back, gain 6. Like, get out of here.
But I am happy that, like I said, every faction gets their tool for shuffling agendas back. I'm happy that Drudge Work is here. It's just as a blanket.
Honestly, very interesting way to do it. Very interesting way. And to also tie in, like I said, I've always been a fan of interesting economy cards in the game. This is definitely a very interesting form of economy that they've built in there. And kudos to that, man. Very interesting space. This card's doing a lot of work.
And I've seen it show up outside of Wayland. I think that speaks to its power.
I like where the ship is steering there.
Hey, very cool. All right. Blockchain.
Oh, I hate this name. Why does blockchain have to show up in my game here? Oh my god, such a buzzword.
So blockchain, kind of weird to me. I don't know. This card doesn't make sense to me. And I think, Hollis, you said it earlier, you stare at a block of text like this and you're like, gosh, this better do something amazing or I'm going to be mad I spent all this time reading.
It's just so much.
Yeah. Every 2 face-up transaction operations in archives.
It's just so specific.
Yeah. Like, what's the most you could reasonably have in archives?
I mean, so I guess you could run, right? You could run 3x hedge fund. You could run 3x IPO. I'm missing some cards here.
Green level beanstalk.
Yeah.
And you need to have played them all, and then you get a sub for every 2 of them. So maybe at most this gets 4 or 5 extra subs. It's still 4 strength. I'm sorry. Like,
yeah. I mean, it's kind of it's very difficult to figure this. Like, I don't know. Like, technically clearances are also transactions.
When you're looking at what it's competing at, you're arguing barriers in Wayland, and it's
Tyrant 2.0.
7 is not a good res cost for what you're getting here in return. Pass.
No thanks.
Pass.
All right. Let's take a look at Formicary. I'm really interested what you guys think of this one, because this one is a really unique effect that we've not seen before in the game. It's like an ice. It's like a trap, but you get to choose when to spring it on the runner. They approach the server, you can res this, then you move it to the innermost, and they're encountering it. Yeah, what do you guys make of this?
What?
Yeah. It's weird, right?
I have no idea what to make of this card at all.
Honestly, I think it's okay.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not blown away.
Mm-hmm.
Right, especially it being as costed as it is.
Right.
With the strength and the 1 sub, it's not really doing.
Oh, right. Instead of meat, it does feel like this somehow ended up in Wayland when it should have ended up in Jinteki.
Yeah. Oh well. Sorry, Formicary. Not today.
I know we're rushing, but Joshua Swanner in the chat, he said probably be better as a trap. I'm inclined to agree.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Honestly, we've said this a couple times that the sub of some of these cards are just mind blowing for me.
Yeah. If this was a trap, that'd be cool as hell. It'd be like, okay, it's hard for you to break unless you have Amakua, and I'm gonna bring you over to like you're gonna go all the way down. It's just.
Honestly, it must be it must be moved here for balance issues later on. It doesn't feel, Alec, you said it best, it doesn't feel Wayland-y. Wayland doesn't put up walls to move you past everything. So.
I don't know. Yeah.
Oh, well. Well, let's talk about a super Wayland-y card. This is building blocks, right? 5 cost, you get a free barrier. You have to take that Chiashi, take that Adrian's Wall, take that Endless Eula. I don't know. There's a lot of big barriers out there, and getting all that for 5. I think there are some decks that'll like that. I mean, obviously, the big winner here is Blue Sun. This is no Oversight AI, and being a longtime Blue Sun player, let me tell you, I love that Oversight AI, and this does not replace it. But it is nice. It is appreciated.
I love getting a free ice wall.
Got him. Easy.
Yeah. All right, so using all the tools available to us, aka Netrunner DB, I'm taking a look at all the ice that is above a 5 strength. Right? Because sorry, not above 5 strength. Take a look at all the ice where the cost is above 5. And let me tell you right now, sorry, that are barriers, by the way. It's not that many. I mean, excuse me. There aren't that many good ones.
Yeah.
They're like the number of ice with a number of barriers with a res cost of 5 or higher that are worth playing this card for don't seem all great. The ones that immediately come to mind, for example, in faction, like one of them is advanceable. So it's some of them are advanceable. So I'm like, that's dumb. I'm not gonna play it anymore. Like I'm not gonna use that. When I look at out of faction, I'm like, okay, sure, Data Loop seems fine. Tithonium seems fine. And after that, I'm struggling.
So
Chiachi for me is the big win. That's the one.
Yeah, no, that's good too. Yeah, sorry.
That's the money target.
But even then, I don't know.
Do you know what this game? Do you know what this faction needs? Oversight AI.
Yeah, man.
And this was their way of getting that back, but you can't. Like, I honestly, I don't know why Oversight AI wasn't bundled in, because I feel like that's something that that this faction really needed. I even liked Oversight AI as a card for what it did for deck building and the game. I think it should have been a core staple. I'm really surprised that when you say that there's a couple guys that worked on redoing the revised core, left Oversight AI out for how awesome it was back in the days, bringing up archers, bigger pieces of ice, what it did for Blue Sun decks and things like that. This is plugging a hole, plain and simple. The faction needs it. This is boosting design space going forward with anything else coming from barriers. It's just a need. It's just a need plugging a hole. That's all I have to say.
Yeah.
All right.
Oh, well. Too Big to Fail, on the other hand, this card has been seeing play, especially out of the outfit, because, man, making 10 credits for one click if you're in the outfit, that's pretty good.
Yeah.
And you can do it from 0. That's really good.
Yep.
Yeah, this card is bananas. Really impressed with it.
I don't have anything else to add to that. I fully agree. Great card that supports the ability. Great card where you can justify probably taking the bad publicity. I don't understand the blackmail. Is that some kind of throw out to the card?
Yeah.
Like a hidden thing now that there is no blackmail in the game. But everything is perfect for this card. Everything is perfect.
Yeah.
Even the fact that it's an operation with a 5 trash.
So funny.
Right.
I love that. It's hilarious.
Great.
It's almost
again, Bad Pub used correct. End of story for me.
Yeah. Right? Because if you're gonna give them Bad Pub, you might as well make it a 5 trash cost.
Right? Yeah.
There you go.
Jeez.
All right, so let's round it out with the Wayland card to end it. This is Under the Bus. Pretty reasonable condition. We've seen a lot of these cards over the past cycle. The reprisal cards, if you all will remember, the ones that you can play if the runner trashed a card. And for a lot of those, I think we said that the condition was pretty specific. With this, though, the runner just needs to have access to card. Like, runners do that all the time. And so your window for playing this, I think, is going to be pretty broad. And the effect, for one cost, I think is quite powerful. Not every deck has connections. I think because scarcity to resources is so popular, leaning on connection resources is not as big a deal these days. But in the right metagame situation, I think this card is a super solid tech piece for Wind.
Yeah, and I think it was, in my mind, when I see something like this and looking at the way that the game is, I think that this lines up the ability to introduce powerful connections later on, and then when people complain, say, "I already have you already have an answer to this, the problem that you're facing. Just slot this card." I'm thematically awesome, cool. Like, connections were always people, and if you don't think trashing a connection results in a bad publicity, man, that's pretty thematic, right? So, is what it is. It's an interesting Wayland card to end off all of Wayland cards. I think if there's a need for it, it's here. And everything about the weight, the cost, the influence, no issues.
I'm gonna be devil's advocate, and I'm gonna say that in Wayland, I feel like you're probably just trying to land tags as often as you can. Like, especially if you're trying to go for a kill combo. And I feel like that's where if you have any sort of ability to tag, I feel like if you can land that tag, you are effectively doing what Under the Bus does. The biggest benefit here is just that to having a tag as opposed to playing Under the Bus is, again, you're generating a bad pub. I do think trashing a resource, a connection, is powerful, but I don't think it's as powerful enough to warrant the runner getting a bad pub for it. Because there's some good ones, right? Like, obviously you have
well said. Well said.
Yeah, like, you got some good ones. You have the Archivist. But you also have Beth Kill Ring Chang and Aesop's, and like those are good shaper cards that you can trash. But I'm like, man, do I really want to give the runner a bad pub to trash their Aesop's? That's like a hard sell.
Honestly, for me, the thing that kind of sours this card is that there is already existing card that fills the slot, I think, a lot better, and that's Contract Killer. Contract Killer is just way more flexible. It can actually win you games occasionally. And yeah, it's more costly, and yeah, it's more risky, but it gets the job done. So,
all right, pump it on. Wayland, to me as a whole, I like the ground blocks that were laid here. Some of these cards, because of the bad publicities, they're not going to be able to see as much play around as hopefully they should. But to me, the huge standout is Too Big to Fail. I love it. I love that card. As I say, that's Wayland design done right with bad publicity. I love what they could have done with the outfit. So it's a shame that the game's best mechanic is being hindered at the end. You guys all good?
As much as I really, really like the fact that Wayland has these amazing options to generate bad pub, I think we finally, it took forever, but at the end of the game, the Wayland has the ability to say, I'm getting bad pub all over the place, but guess what? I gained 10 credits, and I'm going to do this really big thing. Another bad pub. I don't care. I'm rich. Like, I love that that's within the wheelhouse. I still kind of wish, in my head, I wish that Wayland could be played in this limbo where there's this constant, like, flux, right, of having bad pub, but I also need to remove it because there's really bad thing. Like, letting you get too much is too good. And it's almost like I feel like Wayland needs the ability to remove bad pub in a way that still makes the removal of the bad pub profitable in the grand scheme of things. But removing the bad pub does lose tempo. And so you're playing this game of I'm reckless. You're gonna get a whole bunch of turns with a lot of money, and now I'm gonna do some recovery on my end. Just do a little bit of recovery, remove some of that bad pub. Have a quick, quick news shout out. Let people know that it was an accident. That missile did not mean to hit Wizard. And then we're back to our corrupt stuff again. I wish that was how it was played, but of course that's never happened. It's always been once the bad pub hits, it stays pretty much forever. So,
well, my ode to Wayland is that it's been my favorite Corp faction since day one of the game. I love Wayland. Just that play style and the flavor and the theme, it just really speaks to me. And honestly, it's the most cyberpunk thing in this game for me, is that corporation, money, greed, power, blowing stuff up. It's just so fun. And to have been along the ride, to have Wayland go to the depths of below tier 4, just unplayable, and to have been along that journey the whole way, and have it end up in a fairly respectable place at the game's conclusion, warms my heart. And we might never get back to those amazing super modernism days of you really got to respect that Wayland's going to come at you and that it puts the fear in your heart. I don't know if it quite got back to that level, but with these cards here and with the popular Wayland IDs today, I think Wayland has earned some of that respect back, and it's been cool to be a part of that. So, hats off to Wayland. It's been a fun ride.
I think if we weren't doing such a condensed episode or trying to, as we come to a close on this massive corp blowout that we're doing here, I would have really probably spent a lot more time diving into Lady Liberty. But as it sits right now, I mean, apart from it having a decent looking trash cost on it, it's it's just not it's not a card that I can get behind. I really think it's cool. Think it's cool. But to be able to pull this off, I don't think that it's actually worth it, considering it being a limit 1 per deck. I don't think you can bank on that. Right? I think everyone's going to talk about that, trying to pull this off one time, and it's not going to be something that you're doing consistently.
No, it's a weird one. Honestly, if cards like Precognition actually had a meaningful impact on the game, this card might actually work with that. But those kind of effects have never been really popular, and because of that, this seems too high variance and too expensive for an effect that, sure, maybe you get once, and that's it. So I'm not loving it. And what it doesn't do, unlike DJ Fenris, which we had a lot to talk about how cool the space there was, like for deck building and which decks might want that card and where might they use it. With this one, I don't know. I don't think this opens up new interesting space as a corporation. Because it's just not going to consistently allow you to do things that you couldn't do otherwise.
Hollis?
I think that it does. I think it does provide a very weird, sort of game state when you look at Lady Liberty, where often the runner is going to do, especially in what I saw at the end of near the competitive meta, is that a lot of people were either going heavy on R&D access from indexing Maker's Eye with maybe a 1x of legwork, and then they would try to utilize their turning wheel counters as a means to hit the hand. This has a unique ability to sort of fork the runner in a weird way, which I think is interesting. While the card's expensive to res, you put it behind ice, right? And it kind of just sits and ticks. And your opponent has to make a decision, okay, I'm going to have to run on this remote to get rid of this card before it truly becomes usable and allows you to score. Basically, it's not a free agenda because it's 5 to res. But before I'm basically giving you the ability to score an agenda out of hand. And I think what makes it even worse is that it doesn't ever say remove the power counters off of it. So that means turn 3 happens, right? If you have an agenda worth 3, HQ, it says add an agenda from HQ to your score area worth agenda points equal to the exact number of hosted power counters. So it's not even advancement tokens. It's points. So if I have a 4-2 or 3-2, when this has 2 counters, on my turn I can go all 3 clicks in my square area. Go. And it's this weird consistent pressure where it's look, once this has 3 counters on it, I'm just scoring out of hand. So you either got to run this remote right now and come grab this, or you're going to take the chance and run my hand. Do I even have anything in my hand right now? Do I? Like you're playing it lets you play this really weird game, but I don't think it's necessarily good either.
Yeah, I see where you're going, and I think that whole style, like, to me, it would be a whole different thing, because this is a card that I would experiment with, and we would talk about, well, it's an awesome card, but you want to see it early, so you probably want to run 3 of in your deck, but you can't. Right? So because of that, it's just...
I do like your thought, though, Hollis. I think that is cool, the thought of being able to cash out those counters and that it resets down, so it opens up more opportunities for you to actually get more than one use out of this card.
Right.
Yeah. I think there's potential there, but it's tricky, right? Because this effect could be so crazy strong that you have to balance it. But I think this just is... It's not doing enough for me.
Yeah, no, you better go first.
Well, just a quick shout out to Spags, by the way, who played this on stream, and I just thought we didn't realize it until after the match was over. But Spags was playing. Honestly, I can't remember who he was playing with. It was a member of Team UK, and what I thought was hilarious is that he played Lady Liberty against someone from Team UK. If you don't see the irony there, right? It's pretty funny. Like to me, it's pretty funny.
Bravo.
But props to piloting. I props to Spags also, because I saw him pilot his deck with us in there, and it is I could see the interesting potential. I mean, the fact that it's limit 1 per deck means that to some extent there's a power here that I think design-wise they saw. But the question is it worth it? I don't know.
I am impressed with the groundwork that was laid for this box. I am saddened the fact that I can see potential in Boggs's work here, and the work that was put in to pave the way for certain things to be flushed out, for things to come around, for certain factions to move in a certain way. So it saddens me that some of this stuff won't get shaken out. But it's a good collection of cards.
And everybody gets something, which is super neat. That whatever your faction is, you're probably going to find at least one card in here that is worth tinkering around with. So, yeah. I dig it.
Hollis?
I mean, I don't even know what to add. What a damn data pack. what a damn data pack. I mean, it is just good. Everybody gets something. Existing archetypes get a little extra. There's some new archetypes that we can see the groundwork of emerging. And I really also feel like looking ahead for the fan support of the game. I think this also gives some options for as the fan support continues to look at available design space. As Alec pointed out about how we can look at ice in the future, I think that this definitely lays the groundwork of saying, all right, here's some ideas that were messed around with in Data and Destiny, in Random Reverie. Blah. Here's some design ideas that were messed around with in Random Reverie. Let's see if we can expand on that, flesh these out, and make them like more of a reality of unique ideas to play the game. So bravo to Boggs and the rest of and all the playtesters and the design team on working this and making this pack. I actually think it was a great pack. Great set of cards.
This is not the last of our content that you'll see. We got some, just join us next week and we'll continue discussions. For the sake of time, I don't want to get too much into things, but let's wrap things up. That's Alec Hollis. That lady is Lily Lockwood, and I am Jameson. We'll catch you guys later.
See you, everybody.
Have a good night, everybody.
Thanks, everyone. If you stuck through this whole thing, appreciate it. But at least it's a wrap. Wrap it up, B.
Hey, got there.
Play the music. Is there music normally when they like try to?
It's like the Oscars.
Yeah.
Do I win the jet ski? See ya.
Hey man, we're a feature-length film now.